Desert Sanctuary with Karl and Laura Forehand.
Often when we have doubts about religion, or we want to be contemplative, or simply ask questions, it can feel like we are wandering out into the desert.
We would like to welcome you to our sanctuary, the Desert Sanctuary.
We've tried to pick guests that resonate with our fellow friends and seekers here in the desert.
Our hope is that you will find life for your body, soul, and spirit.
And now, here is our show. Hi, welcome to the Desert Sanctuary. I'm Laura Forehand. I'm here with Karl Forehand and our very, very special guest.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary to you too.
I said it first.
Okay, then you win.
It is today.
Yes, it is today, July 9th.
I'm not sure
For
when
those,
this will be released, but
right.
As of the taping, it's officially our 35th wedding anniversary.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. So what we got going on today?
Well, we're going to talk to Karl Butler
Yeah.
again for in our series Leaning Forward. We're also packing right now to go to the Wild Goose, where we get to speak. We're going to speak together.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting, right?
I think it'll be good.
I think so too. We have yet to get it printed, the notes printed off. So
Nah, we'll get it. Figure it
one
out.
way or another, we'll get through it there. But the new book is also finished, kind of still tweaking around on the editing and things, but it's officially at Amazon, and
Right.
we can update it a few more times before the release date. But it's being looked at by several people, and we're not going to do typical endorsements for this. Just kind of got tired of that whole process.
Yeah.
Of you endorse mine if I'll endorse yours, and it gets to be kind of ridiculous after a while. So we just have people reading it right now. We might use some of those comments in the advertising for it, but mainly we just want people to start reading it and then start talking about it. So
Yeah, definitely.
taking a more natural approach, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have Karl Butler, and Kyle's
in the house.
Yeah, I have trouble, Kyle, figuring out what box you fit into, because
Don't put him in a box.
I don't know how old you are. And like sometimes I think of you as my son, and then sometimes I think of you as my brother, and then occasionally I think of you as like a mentor, an older person. But how old are you actually?
I'm 52.
52.
I would not have guessed that.
I wouldn't guess.
I was
that old.
thinking late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah,
So I
52.
definitely won't think of you as my son.
Well, you know what? I would actually count that as an honor to be considered in that son category also.
Yeah, my son is my best friend.
Yeah.
Son is my best friend. So
I didn't have a real strong father figure growing up, so I kind of leech on to anyone that's willing to, to kind of be that person in a sense. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be offended at all if you saw me in that light, and as a brother and, mentor, it's all good to me, really.
yeah. But there's a lot of people that talk about you in the desert, and it's all good.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything bad. People respect you and they respect your opinion. But let's use that as our first question. We don't have any script for this. We're just going to have a conversation. But being in the desert, being on a journey of evolution, of deconstructing your beliefs and changing and so on, have you found not just men and women that you can look to as parental, or what's the word I'm looking for? Mentors and so on out here in the desert. What's been your experience?
People that can journey with you, I guess, really.
Because, religion would have taught us, be careful. Don't go out there. Yeah. No leadership. You're not under the protection of anybody. So what would you say to all that? All my rambling there.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable when I think about the people that I've met out in the desert. There's you and Laura, of course. There's Derek Day and Keith was one of those people I met early on in the desert, so to speak. And we were kind of all just starting to really question things. We were pastors, we were leaders, we had been a long time in the system, and and we were just finding the courage to ask our questions, to offer different viewpoints. And some of those early years were battling over whether the devil was real or not, and if hell really did exist as a place of eternal conscious torment and things of that nature. And I would kind of stumble upon people like you, Karl, and Keith, and Derek, and Simon, and some others, and it would give me kind of the courage to know I wasn't alone. Mm-hmm. And then you guys would also kind of help me expand my thinking by presenting your own challenging questions and thoughts and ideas that were even further than what I was thinking at the time. So I kind of took all that stuff together and I just kept thinking. And I remember one time I listed a bunch of people who I thought had been very instrumental to getting me where I was. And I said something along the lines, really thanking everyone who got me thinking. And then I said something along the lines of, and I just kept on thinking. Mm-hmm. And one of the people who I think, I got kind of offended by that and said, so are you saying we stop thinking? I wanted to say yes. I do think you stopped thinking because you stopped where you stopped and you didn't think back past that. What I meant by that was eventually nothing was unquestionable. Everything was up for question for me. So that's what I kind of got out of the people I found out here in the desert. That hey, just keep going. And the more I went, the more I found other people who were still going as well.
Yeah, I found the same thing. I think you do have to realize, in conjunction with that sometimes, even people that meant something to you, even in the desert, even though it seems like it's a little more pure, and if you keep moving, if you keep asking questions, eventually you're going to move far enough where some of those people, that you were just learning to trust, they're not on the same page anymore, and it's still, even though they're maybe becoming more enlightened, they're not there yet, and where you're going is just a little too far for them, right? And so for whatever reason, it might make them uneasy. And we've just, I don't know what you think about this, but I appreciate groups of people, but more and more I've had to avoid associations, organizations, and sometimes even in the desert, those groups and associations can become somewhat toxic, or they're just not in the same place we are.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? The whole idea of groups and associations and that kind of thing.
I do think they're helpful at certain points. As I mentioned, when you first kind of get out here in the desert, by association with the word desert, you kind of feel alone. It's barren. It's destitute. It's a place of kind of isolation. So when you bump along or bump up to or next to different people while you're out here in the journey in the desert, you feel like, okay, cool. And that gives us a sense of feeling like, a sense of community. But for me, I was thinking about this yesterday morning. Anything for me that is systematic, that is regimented, that you're supposed to do, you have to be in this, or you have to be in that, or you have to meditate this many minutes, or you have to, anything for me that is ritualistic, systematic. I just don't. It doesn't work for me. You know, it just reminds me too much of what I fought so hard to get out of. And anytime I run into something that seems like, okay, we're going to form a little clique here and it's going to be exclusive to us, I'm like, hey, I love you guys, but I'm going to be over here.
Yeah.
You know, call me when you need me. But, you know, I'm going to kind of watch from a distance and in the same time, you know, don't kind of get in your way for doing what you want to do, but just know that I really kind of need to be free. I'm not saying I don't want attachments. I'm not saying I don't want associations, but I just need to be free. I just need to be free and just loose to be me. And that's my journey. I just want to be me. I just want to be authentically me and do it the way that it feels right and good and honest and pure to me. And sometimes groups don't give you that sense that you can.
Yeah.
So when I feel that way, I just, you know, kind of give my hat tip and let them know I'm still loving and still, you know, here for you guys, but I'm going to be over here a little bit.
Yeah. I think that might be healthy. I mean, what Laura and I have talked about in our last two books is that when there's an organization, the organization always comes before the individual.
Yep. And
once you group up and start having creeds and belief statements or whatever, then that group becomes first. You know, you don't want to go against the group. You're defending how you do things and what you do instead of exploring, you know. And we probably have a deep need for groups because, you know, so the dinosaurs don't get us, you know, group up and, you know what I mean? Something like that. But, you know, most times it goes too far with the internet and Zoom and everything. We don't need 7,000 friends and we don't need to be a part of a 500,000 person group or denomination or anything like that. We really, I think we just need a few close friends.
Yeah.
You know, somebody you can be honest with, somebody you can love, somebody that'll love you, those kind of things.
I think we have an innate, you know, desire to belong, but a lot of times what ends up happening is we fit in, right? So we have to change.
That's a big deal for me.
Change who we are to be a part of this group instead of that sense of belonging. So I feel like we, you know, we're born with that innate sense of belonging, but to belong to something doesn't mean it needs to be this humongous group. For me, to belong may just mean I have, you know, close family and maybe a couple friends kind of thing. It doesn't, you know, I feel like the bigger the organization or the group gets, the more my actions are that of somebody trying to fit in rather than belonging.
Yeah. Belonging may be you know, I have the right to speak, you know, I have the right to be here, but, you know, I don't need to become like you so that I can fit into your group. Especially if I'm moving on and you're trying to stay stuck where you are, you know.
Right. Hey, Kyle, I had a question for you. So you'd mentioned, you know, the whole idea of, you know, stopping the thinking process. You mentioned that kind of at the beginning. So how do you keep yourself from just stopping in a specific place? Or do you find yourself, you know, stopping in a place for a little bit, just knowing that you're not maybe going to be there forever? So do you find how do you keep yourself from stopping that thinking process and going, okay, I've arrived kind of thing?
I think because there's so much wonder and very little determined truth as far as proven, undeniable, unquestionable truth.
Yeah.
And because there's so much wonder, I told myself that I'm just going to keep wondering and keep wondering, because no one can tell me things that would be considered undeniable. And then when I realized that if there is something in structure of a God out there, it has never revealed itself in a way that's clear, definitive, undeniable, unquestionable. This is what I am. This is what I do. It's never done that. So it's left us from this perspective in a place of wonder and curiosity.
Mm.
So I decided I'm going to do what it did. I'm going to just be wondrous and curious. Yeah. And, if it doesn't want to tell me what's next, what's out there, what's beyond, I'm just going to keep thinking. And I'm going to move from what makes me feel comfortable today to something else that makes me feel comfortable tomorrow. And with me, I decided I'm not going to look for amen partners either. I'm not going to look for people to say, "Oh yeah, you're right." I'm not looking for right. I'm looking for what feels right to me.
Yeah.
So I just decided that it's just going to be a continual journey. But from this point on, or when I came to that conclusion, I said, I'm going to enjoy the journey. So anything that takes away from me enjoying the journey, I really don't want any part of it. And a lot of that has to do with trying to be right or wrong. That's not fun. It's too much of a burden to try to always have to be right and determine that your version is true. Just because I share my thoughts, that doesn't mean I think I'm right. I'm just sharing. That's all. Yeah. And if you want to say I'm wrong, I'm okay with that. Okay, cool. I'll be wrong. I'm all right with that. Trust me, I'm still going to go to sleep and eat well and live life and be happy. Trust me.
I love that idea of wonder. In fact, I have a little placard in my classroom that says wonder. And I think, it's interesting to me as a teacher how we want to instill that. We want our kids to ask good questions and think critically and think deep. And yet I feel like a lot of times religion kind of helps that work out of us, and the older we get, like you're absolutely right. The older we get, the more we stop wondering and searching, and searching may not be the right word, but, like our book, Leaning Forward, well, what's over there? Well, what does this mean? Well, I wonder what's around that corner. We lose that, it's kind of bred out of us, if you will, but we definitely, come into this world curious. I mean, if you think about babies, they put everything in their mouth, or they want to touch everything because they're curious. They want to know how the world around them works. And slowly but surely, that's kind of taken out of us. So I love the fact that you've given yourself permission to bring that wonder and curiosity back into your life.
Laura, so one of the chapters in the new book is about worship. We're kind of really testing that idea of worship and what it is and what it isn't, and if we should or shouldn't or whatever. We wrestled around with that, but one of the things Laura mentioned in her section was the idea of worship as wonderment, is what she called it. Wonderment, but wonderment is entirely not possible if you're certain, right? Yeah. I mean,
that's true.
How can you be in awe of something if you're right and God is on your side? And because we'd say things like, God, you are right, like we know for sure. And that's not wondering or curiosity or awe. Anyway, so I think a lot of the things we did in organized religion were contradictory like that. Yeah. And just kind of left us stuck. What I think people might like to know what's going on in your life that you can share. I think people might be curious about Kyle Butler that lives in New Jersey, and we got to visit you in Philly.
Yeah.
One of the highlights of our journey.
20 or 2021. I can't remember. I remember it was like kind of during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably 2020.
Yeah. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was really cool. Cool.
So anything you want to share, just if you say no, then I can just edit this out. But most people are curious about Kyle Butler because you show love, you're kind to us. What's going on in your life?
Some really cool stuff. Around about the time we met, probably about a year after that, I embarked on a deep journey of healing that I didn't really know was going to be a deep journey of healing. And but something happened that kind of was a catalyst to it, and my curiosity came to the surface, and because I wanted to know why, and I that was the question, why?
Mm-hmm.
And instinctively, I knew that I had the answer. I knew it. I knew that it was inside of me, and that's where I needed to go. I don't know. Sometimes, maybe those old shows or maybe cartoons. It looks like the character is spinning, and then there's this small little caricature, and then they're like observing all this stuff. It was kind of like that. It's kind of like I went inside and went down into the depths of where all of the stuff is, all that emotional stuff and the trauma and the decisions in life and all that stuff that made me who I am. And what I found was that 8-year-old boy who was the first person that showed me, revealed to me, and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like we took hands and walked through this whole thing. And little by little, he was showing me things, and I would see things, and I would learn things, and I would discover things. And every time I did, I'd go, oh, okay, that's why. Mm. And so I did that, and I rolled up my sleeves, and no matter how difficult it was or painful it was, I wasn't going to stop because I wanted to get to a place of, okay, I can do life now in a much better way. Mm. I can be more authentic. I can be more real. I can be me. I can be honest. I can be open. I can be what I always felt inside. And so as a result of it, the Kyle today, I think, is a whole lot better than the Kyle that you guys met in Philly that day. Mm. And no matter, what you thought of me then, I think that you'll like this Kyle even better. Yeah. in that sense. So Kyle is in a really good place. Kyle can say he's very happy. Kyle's looking for the next part of his life where he'll get married hopefully soon and have a child. And I'm excited about that because it's something I always wanted, but there was just too much stuff inside that was really, preventing. It was fear. It was trauma. It was confusion. It was a disillusionment. It was a lot of stuff that was just these barriers. And I woke up one day and I was where I was and thought, okay, what are you going to do now? Yeah. And, I did what I needed to do. And as a result, I'm happy. I'm really happy. And as of most current soon to be events, Kyle's about to get a tattoo. Oh, wow. I'm super excited. I'm super excited
for you.
July 24th is my date. 2:00. I'll be getting my first tattoo. And I don't know why I'm so excited about that, but
I think that's
I'm
awesome.
so excited about that.
It's our son's birthday, so that's a great day to do that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh man. Well, can you share what it's going to be? I'm curious now. Or do you want to keep it a secret till you reveal it? which I get.
Well, they people may not hear this before that, so I'll tell you
That's
guys.
true.
It's gonna be a Batman across
Nice.
my
Yeah.
bicep there.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
And I'm super excited. I'm super excited.
I
Yeah.
can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Is there a connection with Batman? I mean, obviously there is, but
Yeah.
can you share what that connection is?
Yeah. I like Batman so much because Batman to me tells me that there is a superhero in every one of us.
I like that.
Mm.
Superman can fly. He has super strength. Okay, you're supposed to do that stuff. You're supposed to. I mean, I'm not really that impressed. I'm impressed, but I'm not super impressed. You're supposed to. You're Superman. You can do all that stuff. Same thing with Wonder Woman and the Flash and, you know, all these other ones that have these superpowers. Batman has none. He just has his intellect and his will and his determination and his craftiness.
Oh, I like it.
He just has all these things that we all have. Every single person has access to, everybody. So I can be Batman at any given moment. You know, I can be Batman. I can do something heroic. I can use the tools I have. I can use the strengths I have, and I can see the condition of a place, a group of people, and I can hear them crying out for help, and I can say something that is so dear to me. I just want to help people. I just want to help people, and I'm gonna use my Batman skills, whatever they are. If it's encouragement, if it's inspiration, if it's motivation, if it's a beacon of light or love, whatever it is, I just want to use it to help people, and that makes me Batman too.
I like that because a lot of times we think of something heroic as being, you know, this grandiose gesture, but empathy for somebody is heroic, and it is a grand gesture when you can sit with someone, you know, in their pain or their trauma and just be there, right? And I think a lot of times we discount that as not being anything special, I guess, but in fact it's huge. It's huge.
It is.
Well, I was, I think it was yesterday, right? Yesterday, it came to one of those moments, and I was playing music in the background while I was editing or something, and this Norah Jones song came on, and it was just an old song called "Help Me Make It Through the Night." And it's just along the same lines that Laura's talking about. It was one of those deep kind of inner child moments, like you were discussing, for me. But what it was is just that I don't need to do big, grandiose things, just like what I was talking about.
Yeah.
That sometimes what people need more than anything is just help me make it through the day or help me make it through the night.
Yeah.
That's where people are, and I so want the world to discover what that just by going inside and just by acknowledging little Kyle, then little Kyle can integrate and resolve that trauma that he couldn't resolve when he was 8 years old. Right. And now it can integrate back into yourself and make you a much stronger whole person. I really want the world to discover that. I want them to get good help, good companions like Dr. Paul that we both know, to come alongside them and help them, have the right language for that and things like that. But I just want everybody to understand that kind of tying things together, those superpowers that we have will come to light when we deal with our shit, when we deal with our stuff. And it's really about that simple as going inside, learning to trust ourselves, and being present with the part of us that's wounded. And when we are, it changes.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you mentioned, that, one of your future dreams is to have children. So how do we change the trajectory of things to where we help kids to be in touch with that inner knowing? How do we do that? I mean, as a teacher, I think about that a lot of times,
Question.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do things differently for the next generation?
I know for me, and obviously I can't speak for everyone, but
right.
I know for me, number one thing I'm going to do, well, one of the number one things I'm going to do, one of the top of the list is I'm going to keep my children away from all types of religious influence, all types, meaning my own too. Mm-hmm. Whatever religious thoughts I have, I'm not going to impart that or try to impart that on them. This journey is so incredibly important because I know now without question that there's no way I would have become a Christian had I not grown up in a Christian home. I would not have made the decisions I made towards a God that were both fear-based had I not grown up in the environment I grew up in. I would not have abandoned myself so drastically had I not believed so drastically that I had to do what this God wanted me to do. And although it was totally contrary to that 8-year-old boy who showed me what he wanted to be, what he wanted to do, what he was capable of, I thought I didn't have a choice.
Right.
So, number one, you guys, my children will not have any religious influence whatsoever. And even if I end up marrying someone that is religious or has a faith, she'll know that this child will not go to church. Our parents, my mother's a very strong Christian, and I'm going to demand that my mother not try to force God on my child like she does her other grandchildren. And I know my mother thinks she's helping, but that's just going to be how it is. And I would never try to keep the child away, but it's that important to me. And I understand everyone will receive the information differently. And maybe if my child did hear it, they won't take it as deeply and as sincerely and drastically as I did. I understand that too. But I also understand that the possibility of it is there. And therefore, you know what? Just like I'm not going to put a cigarette in their hand.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put a bottle of beer in their hand. I mean, I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
Maybe they'll pour it out and say, I don't want it. Maybe they'll take a sip and say, this is the greatest thing ever. Give me some more. It's not coming from daddy, So
right.
Right. You get older, you mature, you get information, you figure out life for you, and you want to explore and discover. Dad will stand by you 1,000% at that point. Hey, Dad, I think I want to go to church. Okay, great. I think you're smart enough, wise enough, intelligent enough. You've done your research, you've done your homework, or whatever the case is. Go ahead and go. Daddy ain't coming with you.
Yeah. At least wait till their brain develops.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the bigger, one of the most important ways I can see for that. And then also something I've known since I was a young man is that I'm raising an individual. I'm going to be raising an individual, I'm not raising a child. I'm raising an individual, someone who's going to spend the majority of their life as an adult and as an individual. So I have to be very careful. And now that I'm at this point in my life and I understand the value and importance of it, I have to be very careful that I'm not trying to live my life through my child, that I'm very keen on when I hear my child begin to talk about things that they want to do. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and I said, if a child came and said, hey, Daddy, I want to be a stripper. They're 5 years old. They don't know what a stripper is. Daddy, I want to be a stripper. Okay, baby, so be it. Well, Daddy knows that eventually they'll learn what this is. And they don't want to do it. But Daddy doesn't want to try to damper anything they say until they know. So this one, yeah, don't worry about it. The back of my mind, yeah, you really don't know what that is yet. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to be that influence that tries to tell them, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to, So I think those two things are very important.
Yeah. So right across the street at the Methodist Church, they brought in all the inflatables, the big slides and stuff, and put them all up in the parking lot, rock music and all kinds of, all of that. And then they had the presentation at the end because more cars showed up then and saw the presentation, just like Vacation Bible School.
Mm-hmm.
And, if those kids are 7 to 10 years old, first of all, they're paying $250 each to be there for this little camp, but then at the end, they're obviously, making decisions about what to do with their time and their beliefs, when their brain's just beginning to develop, and that's intentional.
That's exactly the word I was going to use.
By the church.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it written
Well,
down.
I was going to say that I feel like what Kyle is explaining in, his hopes and dreams of being a parent is to be intentional, to really know your child instead of just perpetuating the way it's always been done
to another group.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Because some of that stuff can be not just, an intentional ploy by them, but also it can be traumatizing. It can be damaging.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Because one of the first things they're going to learn is about hell and things like that, So there's also, teaching that I really want to know when you say abandon ourselves, what does that mean? Sorry, I just shifted gears there, but
no problem.
I get to ask that question because you mentioned it a little while ago.
Yeah, I had, a dream back when the 8-year-old boy started showing me himself. And we grew up in a very, tight home financially, and there was always financial distress and things like that. And I was, 8 years old the very first time I knew that I needed to go out and find a way to make some money so that we can have something to eat. I was 8 years old. But that 8-year-old boy also, from that point on, always found ways to make money. And he was entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was 8, I used to say and know inside, I'm going to be a millionaire one day. I'm going to help a lot of people. And I don't care if I have to sell popcorn to do it. I'm going to do that, And so I remember I would see it. It was vivid. It was real inside of me. And I knew that I was going to one day make a difference in this world financially so I can help people. I knew that. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it any way that I thought possible. I wanted to get into business. I wanted to climb a corporate ladder. I wanted to do something because I just knew that that's what I would feel most accomplished with, helping people, changing lives, being there to help people that are disenfranchised financially. I wanted to do that. And so, I knew that I had set myself towards this pathway because from 8 to 9 to 10 to 11, 12, I can think back to all these little things I was doing as a young boy to make money. I would one thing to another. I would just find ways to make money and be entrepreneurial. And I didn't realize it then that that's what I was doing. But then when I was about 13, being in church, and they decided to do a youth night. And I was one of the oldest teens at the time. And they came to me and said, "Hey, Kyle, would you care to share a little message?" And, 13-year-old, scared as can be. Okay. Didn't want to say no. So I did. And I shared a little something on faith and what I understood faith to be at the time. And from that moment on, 13, 14, 16, 18, 19, every so often, very often, it seemed to me, somebody was coming to me, quote, prophesying, God says he has his hand in your life. God is going to call you to ministry, da 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 da.
Mm.
And by 19, I knew or believed that I didn't have a choice, that I needed to submit myself to what God's plan was, and that was to go into ministry. Now, back to that 8-year-old boy, I remember him telling me, I don't want to be a pastor. I remember that. So that's what I mean when I say I abandoned myself. I abandoned him and what I knew for this life that I was told I was supposed to have from this God, that I had no choice or else. And I rolled up my sleeves and gave it everything that I had with as much commitment, desire, passion, truth, honesty as I had, only to wake up many, many years later and realize that I invested and I bet on the wrong source. And I woke up realizing I had absolutely nothing. And I had to deal with that level of regret that sometimes still is an issue for me.
Right.
Because I know what I would have been able to do had I stayed the course of that 8-year-old boy. There's no question. There's no question. And I also know what came out of taking that other path that I thought I had no choice to take. It's no question as well. That was nothing but a bunch of loss. Time I can't get back, strength, energy, work, I can't get any of that back. So that's what I mean. I abandoned me for something that I thought I had no choice to do. And somewhere along the line, I wagered that, well, I'm on God's side, so surely this is going to be better than anything I could have done. This is God.
Right.
And it turned out to be the worst thing I could have done. Yeah. And people don't like that level of honesty.
Right.
I don't know why. I don't know why. If we tell the truth, those of us that did it that way, if we tell the truth and look at it honestly, we can all probably say that, unless you got, your charisma got you to big church with the 3,000 members.
Right.
And that's not all of us. That's very rare.
Yeah.
Right.
So, what do we say about the millions perhaps of pastors who gave their life to this and are going to die old and broke?
Yeah. And just like what you're saying, I wonder how many pastors are in that position that realized they didn't really follow their heart. They followed, well, this has got to be good because it's God's work, right? And so many parishioners do the same thing. Well, I can't, they tell me God has a purpose and plan for my life, but I can't find it. Right. So I'll follow the pastor's plan and his purpose and the church's plan and purpose. Surely that's got to be good because they say they're right and they say God's on their side. So it's got to be good, right? I mean, when I imagined being a pastor, it was like I could imagine that life of speaking, and that appealed to me because I was shy, but I remember thinking, well, if I'm making the wrong decision, it's God's work, it's good stuff. And so how could it be wrong? But like you say, we end up, with a belief system that's contrary to our inner knowing. Yeah. We're not being authentic. All kinds of things are horribly wrong with it. I wonder how many pastors are there, how many church members are there. I think a lot of them are realizing that. Yeah. And it's just really hard to make the move. It's hard to transition. It costs you a lot. Yeah. 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 One more thing I'll add as far as leaning forward, and this is kind of my newest thought, and I may develop it a little bit more in efforts to help people. I think if people want to believe in a God of some kind, okay, fine. If you want to
believe something is bigger, better, greater out there that created you and this world and this system and everything, okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But why do we have to worship it?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to obey it? Why do we have to worship or, love it and give our time to it and sacrifice our lives to it and forsake our families for it and give our money to it? Why do we have to do all that? I mean, again, if you want to believe that something's out there called a God, great. But why do we have to do all that other stuff?
Yeah. It's a narcissistic God that would demand that.
Yeah.
Would demand
exactly.
it. When you have a child, that child is going to be dependent on you. You have more resources you could give it.
Right.
You have, power in a sense, more power than that child has. And that child is dependent on you to some degree. But even in that situation, I don't know any good parents that demand their children worship them,
right.
or demand, this kind of whatever, that you're talking about. What that would be a bad parent. It would be an immature parent.
Exactly.
That would treat people that way. Not a holy God, that
Right.
I like the word communion better than worship, because communion is connection.
Right.
And once you're connected to something that's genuine, if you really believe it's genuine and it is genuine, then how much closer can you get the connection, and what transaction you have to do to be more connected than connected? So I would like to see us focus more on connection, communion with each other, communion with God, if you choose to believe in God, rather than all the silly things we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, any other lessons before we're already out of time, dang it. The lessons learned, big billboard things that you haven't got to express so far?
I guess what I would just, maybe not anything new, but maybe just a reiteration of the value of oneself. I don't know if in this life there's anything more important than being authentic to oneself. If in fact we do have to give an account for our lives, if in fact, shouldn't it be based upon the life we wanted to live? Like if I'm going to give an account, shouldn't it be based upon, hey, well, it was my life and I wanted to do this and I did this and I wanted to discover this and I discovered that and I wanted to be this and I was that. I mean, I just wanted to live my life. So many people in that mindset of giving an account, they're going to actually go and, in their mind, they're going to go and they're going to give an account based upon a life someone told them they had to live, which made their whole life inauthentic at that point.
Right.
Very true.
So why? And so to me, the greatest lesson I've learned, the greatest thing I hold dear now to me and I'll never abandon is the value of oneself and living our life as authentic and true to ourselves as we can.
Yeah. I love that. That's something.
That's a billboard.
Yeah, we've done 270 something interviews, and we hear that so often. That authenticity, presence and authenticity are so important, and it just didn't seem like, in my past life that ever came up. Even
you
don't need to be authentic; just be what God tells you to be, based on my interpretation.
Exactly.
Shut your mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kyle, it's always good and always goes fast, and we always look forward to talking to you. So
likewise,
can get up to see you, this new and improved Kyle, sometime.
Oh yeah, or me out there to see you guys. So.
Yeah,
for sure.
we're pretty low key. We don't go too many places, so we're usually around.
Yeah, cool.
So we'll be in North Carolina. I don't know if that's probably not close enough to New Jersey.
Not.
But
Yeah, it's about 8 hours. The tip,
Yeah.
North Carolina, about 8 hours.
yeah, that's quite a ways. Anyway, well, thanks for being on today.
Thank you, guys.
For those of you out there that are listening, we do hope you get engaged with the books and the podcast and all the stuff. But we're also just grateful, that we can kind of feel your presence out there, and that we have great people to talk to on a trip to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Five or six people, got in contact with since you're here, and we had lunch with them, just like we had supper with Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And deeply meaningful, and we appreciate it greatly.
Mm-hmm.
And just the to use the word we already used, communion with those people was really special, just like it was with Kyle.
Yep.
So we thank you for tuning in. As always, be where you are, be who you are, and be at peace.
Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary.
Remember, all that wander in the desert are not lost. We hope that you know
You are seen,
you are heard,
and you are loved.